All right, so just like I said, the more I look into this and the more things that I'm talking about, eventually I start to piece together a little bit more of some things that I was missing. And possibly what I show in this video, possibly there's something more to build off of. But somebody had left a comment about Tom Brady on one of my videos and one of these recent ones. And for whatever the reason, I went back and I re-looked up Tom Brady, and I found out when I was reading it, he was actually on an episode of Family Guy called Patriot Games, and he was also on an episode of The Simpsons. And if you've been following my really long videos that I've been posting lately, I've talked a whole lot about The Simpsons and Family Guy because Family Guy was actually released on Super Bowl Sunday in 1999, the same day that Dan Marino was on The Simpsons. Clear back in, I think, October, I was talking about the Simpsons episode that predicted Donald Trump to be the president. And I know that Family Guy and The Simpsons are super special, along with the Flintstones, which I'll re-explain a tiny bit here in a second. But the reason I know Family Guy is super significant to Super Bowl 51 is the fact that Family Guy originally had 50 episodes, and then they got canceled, and they came back with their 51st episode that was released on 5/1, and we're going into Super Bowl 51. So, and, interesting, the last episode was even called When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, but, most people think of a star, and I talked about how when Alan Thicke died, when you went to Growing Pains and you looked up the list of Growing Pains episodes, Wikipedia took out the 51st episode. And the 51st episode was called When a Star is Born. And I talked about the possible connections to the Dallas Cowboys, thinking of the Lone Star State and then the Dallas Cowboys logo, the star. I also, in regards to some other things I've talked about in previous videos, it says that the last airing before this new one was on December 10th, 2004, which is interesting because in most parts of the world they're at the date 10/12, and I was talking all about how the Seahawks and the Dolphins tied at the beginning of the season, or they didn't tie. The Seahawks beat the Dolphins this year 10-12 on the very first game of the season. The day we found out the Colts and the Vikings were eliminated from the playoffs. They weren't even going to make the playoffs. Houston, where the Super Bowl is going to be played this year, they clinched their division with a score of 10-12, and they beat the Bengals, and the Bengals were one of the teams who tied this year. That takes it back to 1997, but the Bengals also connected to the Miami Dolphins through the bullying scandal, a whole bunch of other stuff. But anyway, in regards to the Dan Marino stuff, Dan Marino was on the Simpsons episode season 12 or 10, episode 12, a lot like 10/12, and that was also the day that Family Guy first aired. So there's a definite connection. And I forgot to watch. I didn't even watch this Simpsons episode, Homer and Ned's Hail Mary pass. So possibly I'll pause the video in between this here and watch it. But I did go watch Patriot Games, and it seems to be super synced up to the Patriots and the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. But I could be wrong, And one of the main reasons why I think this is because all the stuff I was getting shown with the Miami Dolphins. I talked about how my uncle gave me a Dan Marino jersey out of nowhere this year, and his name in gematria equals 166. And I found out that he was the one who gave me the jersey at a place called the Gold Slipper. If you write out the Gold Slipper in gematria, it equals 166. Earlier in December, my mom's cat had went missing, and my Aunt Betty, who is my Uncle Barney's wife, had posted on Facebook about this cat who looked a lot like my mom's cat, and whatever. It was kind of a little big deal. And we went, and the cat turned out to not be my mom's cat. And then just like a week later, not even a week later, that cat turned up 6 miles out of town, and the way you got to the house where the cat was, you took the Gold Slipper Highway. So I started thinking, that's pretty weird, you know? And my aunt and uncle are Betty and Barney, a lot like the Flintstones, Betty and Barney Rubble. And I looked up the Flintstones, and the Flintstones just so happened to air 166 episodes. And the Flintstones were also named after a TV show called The Honeymooners, because that was what it was based off of. And I've talked about this Ralph theme, and Fred Flintstone was based off of a character named Ralph Cramden. But anyway, Honeymooners in Gematria equals 166. So anyway, I've been thinking about it forever, and one day I wanted to know what my uncle's birthday was, because it always seems to sync up to things, you know, just in regards to decoding media stories and everything else. And I just randomly asked my mom on January 5th. I finally was like, I'm going to ask her, what is his full name? What is his birthday? I asked her that. It just so happened to be 166 days after his birthday. You know, the odds of that are insane. And I wrote out 166 in Gematria. It equals 95. My full name equals 95. My YouTube name on here, Dan Barrett, equals 95, just like 166. And when I looked up this Patriots game episode, I noticed that, you know, they have all of these people, Tom Brady as himself, Carol Channing herself, and you go down and it says Jeff Bergman as Fred Flintstone. And I thought, what are the odds of that? Fred Flintstone is in this episode of Family Guy that Tom Brady's in. So I thought, all right, let's watch this episode. We'll see where it leads me, you know? And it even involves London, and it's something I talked about in regards to the tie games this year. There was the 2 tie games for the first time since 1997. I also talked about ties in regards to the Indians and the Cubs being in the World Series, and a whole bunch of stuff with that. But just want to re-point out that the Bengals tied the Washington Redskins in London this year, and the Bengals were a team. The day that the Cubs tied the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Bengals defeated the Dolphins 22-7 or 7-22, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes along with that. 7 divided by 22 is 0.318. It's a number super connected to Jesus, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, let's look at this episode then. The first thing that really stood out to me was that it's the 70th episode, and Miami Dolphins in Gematria equals 70. And if you've made it this far in the video, I should have probably said it in the beginning. If you don't know what Gematria is and you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch the videos, links that I leave in the description. I have a 15-minute video that explains what Gematria basically is, and it leaves links to Zachary K. Hubbard's video, or videos that, you know, goes way more in depth of what I'm talking about. But if you watch that 15-minute video, it will make so much more sense. And also, you need to watch my previous videos, because each video I am building off of things that I have learned previously, and I don't always re-explain everything. So anyway, this Family Guy episode, it also came out on January 29th of 2006, and America in Gematria equals 129. The Patriots are America's team and whatnot. They, you know, won the Super Bowl just after 9/11, when Mariah Carey was singing the national anthem. Think about that in regards to Colin Kaepernick not standing during the national anthem and everything else. There's been lots of 9/11 symbolism. Also, Super Bowl LI is Super Bowl 51. L is the 12th letter, I the 9th letter, a lot like 129. And in regards to the 9/11 symbolism, I just wonder, since it was Season 4, Episode 20, as a date, that is the 110th day of the year, and the date numerology of the episode, 1 plus 29 plus 20 plus 6 is 56. And these two numbers really go hand in hand. I see them connected to the same thing a lot. For example, Osama bin Laden, the small way equals 56, the big way 110. Adolf Hitler, the small way 56, the big way 110. The World Trade Centers, the Twin Towers were 110 stories tall. The Pentagon even has a highway next to it, Highway 110. The word president equals 56 and 110. Rockefeller equals 56 and 110. You know, the World Trade Centers proposed and approved by a Rockefeller. There's a whole lot of other examples as well. So just want to move on. Just wanted to show a few examples. Saddam Hussein even equals 56 in gematria. Also Paris, France, and ISIS equal 56. So who knows? And Fred Flintstone then is in the very beginning of this episode, and it's even about betting on sports. And then Fred Flintstone, the big catchline he says is, "Vote no on Indian gaming laws." And I've been following this huge Native American theme, so it's kind of funny. And even the Donald Trump episode about him being the president on The Simpsons, they went to the Indian casino, and then the Indians were in the World Series for the first time since 1948. And 1948 was the biggest election upset in American history when Harry S. Truman beat Thomas E. Dewey. And Thomas E. Dewey is what the high school is named, and the TV show Growing Pains, and a whole lot more. You know, I talked about this, the supermoon that we had on Prince Charles's birthday this year. Prince Charles, born in the year 48. The last time we had the closest supermoon was in the year 48. Donald Trump in gematria equals 48 the small way. And something I realized earlier, I've talked a lot about this number 217, and mostly I've talked about it in regards to the NBA, but 217, February 17th, is the 48th day of the year, and in a leap year, it leaves 318 days in the year. If you write out New England Patriots, it equals 217 in gematria. And the reason it was so special with the NBA was because on July 21st, 21/7, they announced they were moving the All-Star game, or All-Star week, out of North Carolina because of the bathroom law. And then the All-Star week begins on February 17th, which is Michael Jordan's birthday. And Michael Jordan was super synced up to the World Series as well. You know, he played baseball under Terry Francona, the Indians coach, and a whole lot more. Anyway, the guy who voices Fred Flintstone is Jeff Bergman, and he's also 56 years old, which is and he's from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is even, you know, the original capital of the nation, and the Declaration of Independence was signed there with 56 signers. John Hancock was the first one. He died aged 56. The last one to sign it, to die, was Charles Carroll III, who died 56 years after the independence was signed, you know. But anyway, this guy born on the 192nd day of the year, July 10th, because he was born in a leap year in 1960, which, interesting too, that was the year that the Indians were cursed by the curse of Rocky Colavito, when Lou Boudreau, the MVP of the Indians, was the coach of the Chicago Cubs that year, and the curse of Rocky Colavito happened on the 108th day of the year. You know, tons of stuff with it. The Cubs hadn't won in 108 years, and it synced up to the Great Chicago Fire on 10/8, 145 years ago. Chicago, Illinois equals 145. So, just interesting, I guess. I'm sorry for getting off topic here. So, the guy who played Fred Flintstone, born on the 192nd day of the year, NFL and English gematria equals 192. A big deal all year, and whatever, we were talking about the Colts that seemed to really fake everyone out. Indianapolis Colts equal 192. Jeff Bergman in gematria equals 51 and 87. Super Bowl 51 is what I'm talking about. It also talks about how, on Wikipedia, it talks about how he became the first voice of Bugs Bunny, age 29, after the death of Mel Blanc, who died on his 29th birthday. In football, the small weight equals 29. Talked a lot about. So he also was going to be the host in a show in Omaha in 2017. I've talked a whole lot about Omaha stuff in regards to the Native American theme and the area that I live. It also says that he did voices on Ace Ventura, the TV show. Think about that in regards to the Miami Dolphins. Anyway, in this episode, what happens is Stewie bets Brian, the dog, that Carol Channing will beat Mike Tyson in a fight that's on or whatever, and then she actually beats him, and then Stewie wants his money, and he beats up Brian pretty much the whole episode and whatnot. But Carol Channing actually does beat Mike Tyson. But interesting, when you look up Carol Channing, she is 95 years old right now, also born on January 31st. 131, if you write out Super Bowl in Gematria, it equals 131. If you write out Mike Tyson, it equals 131. So it seems to be connected to the Super Bowl. Possibly it was connected to a different Super Bowl, but with all the Fred Flintstone stuff that I've been seeing in the 166, it makes me think that it's connected to this year. Also, Peter goes to his 25th class reunion, and just reminds me of 2-5, the day the Super Bowl is going to be played this year. 2-5, if you write out class reunion, it equals 51 in Gematria. The big way, it equals 150 like Green Bay Packers. And something that I forgot to point out, that I had pointed out before, was the year of the tie stuff that I'm talking about. The Dolphins game got moved up to Monday night because of the World Series that year. The Miami Marlins defeated the Cleveland Indians in 1997 in Game 7. So how interesting is that? The Cleveland Indians lost in Game 7 this year and Game 7 in 1997. The last two times there's been two ties in the NFL. But anyway, it got moved to Monday night, and scheduled on that Monday night was the Patriots versus the Packers. And I don't know, just presenting information. We'll see how it all plays out, and, see if I can figure out more of the script. So Peter goes to his class reunion, and he tells them that he's a secret agent astronaut millionaire. And then the other guy says, "Cool, where'd you get the cowboy hat?" And then he says, "Outer space," or something like that. But look what the high school is called. James Garner High School. If you look up James Garner, you find out he was in the movie Space Cowboy. So that's probably what they're making fun of here, Space Cowboy. But think about the Dallas Cowboys symbolism. And also think about how fitting that is for the Super Bowl that's played in Houston this year, Houston and the Space Center, the Space Cowboy. We had the death of John Glenn earlier this year as well, the same time that Buzz Aldrin was in the hospital. And he was in the hospital in Christchurch, New Zealand, where we had the earthquake that was near it. And then on Queen Elizabeth's 64th anniversary of being the Queen, I think it was. Or, no, I don't remember. Sometime right around the Super Bowl last year, though, we had an earthquake in Christchurch. There was an earthquake just before the Super Bowl last year on Queen Elizabeth's 64th anniversary. Is a 6.4 earthquake in Taiwan, and it synced up to the number 56 yet again. But I even showed how it was a complete tribute to her 64th anniversary. They talked about like 168,000 people being out of power. Queen Elizabeth II equals 168. Anyway, John Glenn, he died 4 months, 20 days after his 95th birthday. And just think about 95 in regards to 166 when you write it out. It equals 95. This Simpsons episode is season 4, episode 20. I don't know why I wrote the Flintstones equal 166 in there, but it had 166 episodes. In the movie Space Cowboy, Tommy Lee Jones's character, I think his name's Hawk, he finds out he has cancer, and he doesn't have very much time to live, so then he basically saves the day and shoots himself off to the moon or whatever. I haven't seen the movie in years, but I was just reading the description. But interesting, he's 70 years old like Miami Dolphins, and he's born on the same day Dan Marino was born, September 15th. And the moon has been super significant in the past year or whatever. Prince dying on the 112th day of the year, on the night of a full moon. And The Simpsons killed him off on an episode that came out on 11/2. They killed him off with Neil Armstrong, the first guy to walk on the moon. And think about all of the moon symbolism in regards to werewolves and Wolverines and whatnot. Michigan Wolverines, Tom Brady's college team. Michigan even got their first loss of the season this year, just 2 days before the supermoon, the biggest supermoon since the year 48. So basically, Peter gets made fun of at his class reunion, and he decides to get real hammered or whatever, and he's got to puke. And he plows through a big crowd of people, and Tom Brady just so happened to be there or be in his class, and he decides to get Peter a spot on the New England Patriots. So the first game that Peter plays in, he only plays in 2 games on the episode. He plays against the Redskins and against the Cowboys. Think about that, the Cowboys and the Indians. This year on Thanksgiving, the Cowboys even played the Indians. So who knows? The Redskins are, they're super significant too to the Miami Dolphins. That's who the 72 Dolphins beat. I talked all about the area that I live, and Brandon Scherf, who is the Washington Redskin. And it's interesting that Peter wears number 68 for the Patriots, because 68 was super synced up to Brandon Scherf. That's the number he wore for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and we had the death of Kyle Callaway earlier in the season. And whatever, not going to go into it, but the town that I live in, Dunlap, equals 68, and they killed the last keeper of the sacred pole of the Omaha Indians, Chief Yellow Smoke, in the year 1868. So I decided to look up who is number 68 on the Patriots right now. It's LaAdrian Waddle. I mean, pretty interesting, his birthday, 21/7, New England Patriots equal 217 in gematria. I also noticed that he played college at Texas Tech, which is in Lubbock, Texas. And I talked about, in the death of Alan Thicke, I talked about Lubbock, Texas. That's where Ryan Tannehill's from. Talked about the Lubbock Lights, a famous UFO case that happened in the year 51. Lubbock Lights equal 51. We're going into Super Bowl 51. Growing Pains missing the 51st episode. So interesting, in regards to that. In the only other game then, so Peter plays against the Cowboys, and he basically, he starts showboating or whatever after he scores a touchdown, and it breaks into this really long thing of them singing the song Shapoopy from, I think, The Music Man or whatever. It's just a big, long, pointless thing, singing Shapoopy, and then Tom Brady gets mad, and that's why he gets traded to the London team. But in this whole little Shapoopy thing, they keep showing this guy in the number 10 jersey in the background. I'm not quite for sure what it means. It looks like a Raiders jersey, because it's black and looks like black and white or black and whatever. Just reminds you of the Raiders. But, I mean, he's the only guy in the crowd that even has a number on his jersey. Number 10 there, like right here, 10. Like, nobody else has a number on any of their clothing. I didn't take as many screenshots as I should have. Every time they changed the scene, I mean, literally, it was only this number 10. And then they even switched to a bar, and this guy wearing the number 10. So they want you to see the number 10 for whatever the reason. And I think part of it is due to the fact that if you write out 10, it equals 39, just like if you write out Cowboys. But also think about the quarterback stuff going on this year. I talked about the Cowboy controversy and Super Bowl 5 that was played in Miami, and that was a big reason why I was talking about the Colts versus the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Talked about how Craig Morton and Roger Staubach of the Dallas Cowboys, there was a quarterback controversy, And they're actually, when you look them up, they're both born on 2/5, which is the day the Super Bowl is going to be played this year. But anyway, Garoppolo, number 10. Remember, he's born on 11/2, a lot like 112. Houston equals 112 in Gematria, where the Super Bowl will be played. He also broke a bunch of Tony Romo's records at Eastern Illinois. Tony Romo born on the 112th day of the year. And think about it. I talked about this in my Dolphins videos in regards to the 10-12 stuff. Garoppolo, number 10. Tom Brady, number 12. Dan Marino in Season 10, Episode 12. Family Guy's last episode, before it got canceled, came out on 12/10 or 10/12. So, just something to think about. It really seems like this episode's pointing towards the Patriots and the Cowboys, but possibly there's just more to uncover. So at the very end of the episode, Peter gets traded to the London team, and then he challenges Tom Brady and the Patriots to a game. And all of Peter's the London team, they all get scared and they leave, and then Peter catches the ball and gets creamed or whatever, and then Tom Brady gets respect for him, and the episode pretty much ends, other than Brian pushes Stewie in front of the bus or whatever for revenge. But it's just funny in general that he gets sent to London, which seems pretty pointless and weird. And I've talked about all of the royalty theming, talked about how the ties symbolism syncs up to London as well. And when you look up why they named the episode Patriot Games, they named it because it's based off of this, Tom Clancy Patriot Games. It's kind of a little parody of it. But when you read through Patriot Games, you find out that basically the whole thing is all about saving the Prince and Princess of Wales. And Prince Charles is the Prince of Wales, and if Queen Elizabeth dies, he'll become King Charles III. We've getting all these stories about Queen Elizabeth being sick, Queen Elizabeth almost getting shot by going for a walk. The Super Bowl this year, it will be played on 2/6 in London because of the time difference, which is Queen Elizabeth's 65th anniversary of being the queen. If you're out the word prince, it equals 65. So, who knows? Just seems like it's pointing towards the Cowboys and the Patriots to me. It's really funny because a lot of stuff that I've been talking about is really just coming up in the news, and it's just adding on to all of the things that I keep talking about. It's all connected, but I'm not seeing the big picture is all that it is. Because we just got the news of the San Diego Chargers moving to Los Angeles, and the Rams are playing Los Angeles now too. And then the same day we find out about the Chargers, we get the story of Sean McVay going to coach the Rams. And he's the youngest NFL coach, right? Youngest NFL coach equals the same as Los Angeles Chargers. We get the story on the same day. And it's he surpassed Lane Kiffin for the youngest person. Maybe I'll just make a whole nother video on this. But Lane Kiffin, born in Lincoln, Nebraska, super synced up to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I talked about all of the Ram stuff in regards to how it syncs up to the Cornhuskers and Abraham Lincoln and Moses, both freeing the slaves. It's just such a joke. It's all connected. I just don't see the complete big picture, and I'm not predicting things right. But the things that I'm showing are truly going on and syncing up. I'm just not putting it together in the right way. If that makes any sense, So, gonna leave it at that. Actually, I'm gonna go watch that Simpsons episode really quick and see if there's anything that really stands out to me in the Tom Brady Simpsons episode, and possibly I'll add it on to the end of this, but who knows? Maybe I'll just do all that tomorrow. But whatever. Have a good one. Peace. All right, so I went and watched this episode of The Simpsons then with Tom Brady in it, Ned's Hail Mary pass, and it's really interesting. Maybe I need to watch it again, but the theme of the episode is what really gets me. It's basically all about Homer trying to teach star athletes how to do like their their touchdown dances, and all these other athletes get a hold of him and have him teach them how to dance, like LeBron James and Michelle Kwan and whatnot. And then the NFL owners ask Homer to be the guy who makes the halftime show. And Homer doesn't know what to do for the halftime show. You know, he does all these other crazy stuff, like he has the one guy put on a beaver's tail and then like chew down the goalpost. But he gets all nervous for this halftime show of the Super Bowl and doesn't know what to do. And Ned Flanders has got a new video camera and been making videos about the Bible and whatnot. And they've all been graphic, and Marge doesn't like that. And then whatever. Homer meets up with Ned at the church, and they use Ned's idea for the Super Bowl halftime show. So interesting how it connects to all the Jesus symbolism and whatever else, the Bible type stuff that I've been mentioning in regards to the 318. But right as the halftime show begins, Homer says, we're going to go back to a time before TV, before the cowboys, before the dinosaurs. You know, just interesting they throw in the Cowboys in here, and not necessarily the Cowboys football team, but interesting they didn't come up with anything else other than TV to dinosaurs. You know, there's a whole lot of other things they could throw in there other than Cowboys. Possibly nothing, but just throwing it out there. They throw in the Cowboys symbolism. They're doing the whole biblical theme and whatnot. And this is also in Super Bowl 39. Super Bowl 39 was really won by the Patriots, and this episode filmed on the same day that was played. So just interesting to throw a cowboy thing in there, possibly foreshadowing to this year. You know, it is interesting in regards to all of the 39 tributes that seem to keep coming up. Tom Brady's even 39 years old. Like I said earlier in the video, the number 10, if you read out 10, it equals 39. Talked about the kid on Fuller House coming down the stairs wearing what looks like the Rams uniform and the number 39. Cowboys equal 39 in gematria. And this was Super Bowl 39. So, who knows? We'll see how it plays out. Gonna leave the video of that. It's already way longer than I wanted it to be. So, have a good one. I'll make another video if I find more stuff.